Controversy erupted over the past weekend at Turning Point USA's event in Detroit when Nick Fuentes was kicked out of the event, and we don't know why. I think Turning Point should have absolutely articulated a reason and had a reason to remove Nick. And if there wasn't one, I don't see what the problem is in having Nick attend. The video went viral. Nick Fuentes and Jake Shields walk into the Turning Point event. They're walking around. Security almost immediately comes up and says, "You can't be here, and you know why." Okay, well, I don't. And I'd like to know why TPUSA has removed Nick Fuentes. Certainly a lot of people take issues with him. A lot of people are not fans of his fan base. But I don't see why you're kicking him out. I got to be honest. And I think you should justify it. When you don't, let's just say two things. First, if you have no legitimate reason to remove Nick Fuentes, you should not. If you do, it's important you tell us, because what happens afterwards is Nick Fuentes goes outside to this massive crowd of hundreds of people and gives his speech and ends up getting massive attention for it. If there's a real reason to say he can't come in, you better give it, because all you're doing is actually empowering him. And maybe that's what he wants to. I don't know. Shortly after this, where the controversy gets a little bit more wild, Sneeko, prominent personality on the internet, gets his teeth chipped. One of his teeth are chipped, getting punched by a security guard. It's absolutely crazy. The America First Political Action Conference, hosted by Nick, is shut down. Now everyone's arguing as to what really happened, and the Detroit Free Press has come out to explain what is actually going on. While I don't think this is the most important story in the world, I do think it's interesting to talk about this bifurcation that we're seeing, and there is a growing movement. People outside of Turning Point USA's event were demanding Nick be let in. They are fans of his. My question there then is, though, why would Nick go to Turning Point USA if they don't like Turning Point USA? Why not go anywhere else? I don't quite understand. But it is interesting to see that the venue for America First Political Action Conference was actually canceled on them, and they got removed. The question is why? Well, according to Nick's side of things, they just abruptly, within 24 hours, just said, you know what, we're shutting you down, we're kicking you out, even though they had a contract. Detroit Free Press says that they actually talked to the venue. The venue's claiming it was a different third party that had signed up for the event, and they had no idea it was going to be Fuentes. What I can tell you is this. You should never, these venues need to understand, they said they're getting hate mail and stuff. You should know who you're booking, and I don't see it as an excuse for you to be like, we had no idea. They claimed it was a corporate event. Every venue I've booked at, they always ask, who's going to be attending? Who's the roster? What's your insurance? So I got to be honest, I don't buy this. I don't. I think they knew who they were booking. They had no problem booking Nick Fuentes. And then as soon as they realized they were getting attacked, they said, pull the plug. You want to know why I think so? I'm biased, but it's happened to us. We go to book venues, and they say, who's being booked? They don't just go, corporate event, you're good to go. I've never experienced that. And not to mention, this is not the first time Nick's done an event. A lot of people don't like Nick. Sure. We booked an event several years ago at a theater. We told them, here's who's coming. And they said, no problem. They had told us, Ann Coulter has been here before, and there were protests. We got no problem. We can handle this. Great. A week out or 2 weeks out, they cancel on us abruptly. And because apparently Antifa threatened to burn the theater down, breaching contract, and there's nothing you can do about it. So when I hear this story about Nick, I'm like, I don't believe it. You don't have to like Nick. You don't have to. I cannot stand their worldview. But I do not believe for a minute that a venue was willing to book a corporate event. Let me get to the news. All right. This is important because it pertains to free speech, conflict with Turning Point USA. And so we'll read this. Detroit Free Press says, the leader of a controversial right-wing group canceled their conference in Detroit, alleging they were kicked out of the Russell Industrial Center in Detroit, where he said they had plans to hold events. The move comes after Detroit police had responded to a dispute involving the group on Friday. Nick Fuentes of the America First Political Action Conference said Saturday on social media that the group was setting up the stage on Friday at the Industrial Center when people with the center told them they would not be allowed to proceed. Fuentes says they had a contract for the venue, but an official with the Russell Industrial Center said they were tricked by the group and never had any contract directly with Fuentes or AFPAC. The center was working with a third party. quote, a local and reputable production company that does large-scale corporate events for other reputable companies, the spokesman said. He said they would have never accepted such an event if they had known what they promote. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. We have booked too many events for me to believe this. Dude, I will absolutely pull up Nick Fuentes' speech, and I will tell you what I don't like about his speech. And y'all know it. I don't believe this. We book events all the time. There's no way we can book an event and they don't ask. I don't know. Maybe it's just us. We're right now booking for like the RNC. Okay, they know who's coming. We have done a bunch of Timcast live events. We choose venues because we know certain ones will not allow us to be there. We were trying to do an event in Philadelphia, and they said no politics, not allowed. We go to them and say, hey, we want to put on an event. We're going to have a bunch of speakers. It's like a YouTube thing. And they said, and who's the YouTuber and what's it for? And we said, this is our channel. This is what we do. And they said, no politics. Thank you. Have a nice day. And we said, okay. And we left. I don't believe for a minute they were tricked. A local reputable production company, that would mean someone they knew and had worked with before intentionally deceived them. For what purpose? For what reason? If Nick, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. There's no way I imagine Nick Fuentes behind the scenes being like, let's get banned on purpose. He wants to put on his event, have a big rally, and he wants to do it outside of these TPUSA events. He's done this multiple times already. He knows that by going in like this, they'll probably kick you out at the last minute if that were the case. I don't believe it. Well, I'll get more into this, but let's read more. They say the event was canceled due to fraudulent, knowing misrepresentation of the true nature of the event by the production company for their client, and our concern of safety for our facility, employees, tenants, and surrounding communities. A spokesman for the Russell Industrial Center told the Free Press in a statement. The amount of hate mail we've been receiving and terrible things being said towards us by the AFPAC following is disturbing and only affirms our decision was the right one. I believe that. I genuinely believe that Knicks fans are sending all this hate. Because I'll tell you why. When I had Elijah Schaefer on the show a couple weeks ago, and Mary Morgan was here as well, I said, I don't actually believe personally that Knicks fans do this. This idea that Nick Fuentes' fans are going to spam like shows and other people insulting, attacking, sending death threats and threats to their children. I'm like, why would they do that? It's ineffective. It does not win you political points. It doesn't help you win. And they know it. This crowd is very familiar with the idea of false flags. So I don't believe it. Well, Elijah and Mary were adamant. No, Knicks fans do send rape and death threats to people. And I was like, okay, I stand corrected. I don't know. I just assumed that's something they wouldn't want to do. Because I've heard Nick tell his fans before to stop doing things like that. But if that's the case, then Nick doesn't have control of what his fans do. I get it. So if they say they're getting hate and threats, I'm assuming it's true at this point. That being said, it's probably due to the fact that they canceled a contract that was legit. I just do not see a reality where the simple answer is Nick went to this production company and said, we want to intentionally get banned to generate attention. I don't see that happening. What I see happening is they booked an event as they normally do. The venue either failed to do their due diligence in asking who the event was for and then found out at the last minute. Here's what I think. I think they didn't care. I think at the last minute, they started getting threats from Antifa and far leftists, panicked, said, we can't deal with this, shut it down, and are now concerned they face a breach of contract lawsuit from a group that has the ability to sue them and will. So they're claiming it was misrepresentation. Fuentes has been described by some groups, blah, blah, blah. They call him a lot of things. I think it's important to call him what he is. And I would say Nick Fuentes is an America First personality who deeply hates Israel. I think that's a fair assessment of who he is. Outside of that, I think the only way to describe him is to describe his actual beliefs, many of which people don't like, many of which people clearly do like. I'm personally not a fan of the guy, but I don't think that matters. There's a lot of people I'm not a fan of. I just got to be honest. I saw the story about the venue canceling, and I'm triggered because I'm like, they've done it to us. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Detroit police said we did not shut the event down. Police from the 3rd Precinct did respond. They stood by. Hearn said it was a dispute between the Russell Industrial Center and the group leasing the space. The spokesman for the center praised the actions of Detroit police. The Russell Industrial Center spokesman added before the event, We were told when booking the event was a private, high-class corporate event with a seated dinner and some keynote speakers. The production company also had us downsize our normal security protocols as they kept ensuring this was a corporate event with all professional corporate attendees. I don't buy it for 2 seconds. They always ask us. They say, which corporation? So this would imply that this booking company had this plan to look, Russell Industrial Center, if this is true, didn't do their due diligence, and it's still their fault. And if they did, now they're lying. So pick one. They knew it was Fuentes and are panicking now from the backlash and lying about it, or they didn't do their due diligence and got mad about it later. I don't buy it. I think they knew. Fuentes posted a photo on X of what appeared to be himself inside a center on Friday with some police officers near him, saying, yesterday we finished setting up our stage, and then the venue called the cops to kick us out 24 hours before the event. It would have been our biggest yet with around 2,000 attendees. I'm just going to say it one more time because I have to say it. We did an event. We had booked a year in advance. They knew who we were. They knew the speakers. We had talked to them about this. And at the last minute, they claimed that they were unaware. At the last minute, they canceled and said, we had any idea that this person was coming to speak. We wouldn't have allowed it. And we were like, are you kidding? We gave them a list of all our speakers. Absolute BS. It's because Antifa shows up at the 11th hour to get it shut down. So there was a fight. Sneeko got his tooth broken, or more than one. Lauren Witzke says to Ali London, when he said Sneeko had his teeth smashed by a security guard after a group of anti-Semitic influencers attending the now canceled AFPAC refused to leave a Detroit bar. Lauren says this is not what happened at all. We booked and paid for the venue outright. The venue was made well aware of who we are despite the way they made things appear. The security team with zero impulse control got triggered by one of the speeches, turned on loud music, and started assaulting our production staff and attendees who were behind the audio booth and in the crowd. You want to make us look bad, so I get why would you lie, but the chaos was caused on their end, not ours. What I can say is the video of the fight, someone hits the hat off the security guard, and then he just dive bombs Sneeko. Yeah, don't hit someone's hat off their head, but I don't think having your hat flicked is cause to jump smash somebody in the face. And I will tell you this, because they got that viral video they post all the time of that dude pulling my hat off, and I turned around and threatened to smash his teeth in, but I did not. And that's the point. People are like, haha, you got triggered. I know, but I didn't hit the guy. I just got mad. Things happen. Security guard shouldn't have done it. Tenant Media has got Taylor, at Taylor USA, Taylor Hansen, who went out and met up with Nick, and I'll play a little bit of this intro for you so you can see where they went.
So, Nick, you have an impromptu rally that just popped up of nearly 500 supporters in support of you, because essentially you got kicked out of the event for no reason yesterday. Are you excited to go and address the crowd? What do you expect the reaction will be?
I think it's going to be a good reaction.
I didn't want.
I think people are ready for America first. They don't want Freedom Water and Alex Clark. They want the real deal. They want independence from Israel.
I just got to pause right there. Independence from Israel. Ugh.
Organically, just there waiting. What's that tell you?
You got a big crowd, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look at this. It's a huge crowd. I think some estimates say 500 people. I think based on what I saw of it, I'd say it's probably around 500 or so people. Here's they were chanting Christ is King and Groiper and things like that. Let me tell you about what I think of these here fellows politics. All of these people, many of them, David Duke was there, a former Klan member, saying that they want to push back against Jewish supremacism. They want independence from Israel. And I'm just like, I don't like the phrase audience capture. I don't think that means anything. Community is the better way to describe things. Audience capture is this phrase that they use to claim that you are saying whatever your audience wants to hear. No. There are grifters. I do not believe Nick is one of them. I think Nick genuinely believes what he believes, and he's espousing the beliefs that he has. I just think he's wrong. I think he's right on a lot of things. I think if we sat down, we probably agree on most things, because most people do. But the independence from Israel stuff always really irks me, because I would like independence from like Saudi Arabia and NATO, Europe, European nations. This idea that one small Middle Eastern country, because of their interest groups, because there are Jewish people in media, that implies the U.S. is bound by Israeli control. It's just tough. They'll make a lot of interesting points about AFPAC, for instance, and their foreign influence on the United States and why they're not registered as foreign agents and things like that. And there are a lot of valid points. And then I say, Saudi Arabia, with massive oil production, actually dictates to the United States what we should do and when we should do it. The U.S. is embroiled in the Yemeni crisis, a humanitarian crisis where 100,000+ people have already died in the past several years. I think the total death count might be 200 to 300,000, including 100. I think it's 100,000 children. Maybe that number is way off because the numbers are always hard to get, but the numbers are ridiculous. It's a bad thing. Why? Saudi Arabia wants U.S. involvement. Saudi Arabia can dump oil into the market and crush the U.S. economy. Saudi Arabia can decide not to use the U.S. petrodollar anymore, which is apparently what happened. So the U.S. acts at the beck and call of Saudi Arabia over and over and over again. I don't believe this means Saudi Arabia controls the United States. Israel gets billions upon billions upon billions, for a while more than anybody else. Now Ukraine's getting way more. Before Israel, Vietnam got way more. Israel was the main military cause for a long time. That doesn't mean we are beholden to Israel. The people who believe that Israel is in control of the United States ignore all of the other foreign conflicts. So I would just put it this way. Certainly, I disagree with Nick. He's allowed to believe what he wants. I think he's wrong. His audience believes what he believes. He has a community of people who live in that world. I don't think it's audience capture. I don't think it's grift. I think the dude genuinely believes this stuff. I think he's just wrong. It is often mind-numbing because what really bothers me is I am America first. This guy says he's America first. I have to wonder. I have to tell you, I genuinely believe that for the cause of America first, Nick Fuentes has sabotaged it. That's my opinion of the guy. He should be allowed to speak. He shouldn't be kicked out of conferences. They shouldn't boot him from his events. None of that stuff. I think those ideas need to be challenged, and I will challenge it right here, right now. We invited Nick on the Culture War show to talk about Donald Trump with Laura Loomer and, of course, with me. He declined. He keeps saying that we're dancing around. We want to book him. Absolutely not true. There are a lot of people who booked the guy, and we do it the best way we can. He's been on a few podcasts recently, where they just happen to have not uploaded them to YouTube because we all know exactly what the game is and what the deal is with Nick's ideas, the things he says, and the community guidelines on many of these platforms. I offered Nick to come on to our Tenet Media show, the Culture War show, on YouTube live. He didn't want to do it. I got no beef. He didn't have to do it. He owes me nothing. But I'll say this. I don't want to fund Israel. I don't want to spend $60 billion, $100 billion. I don't want to spend $1 on Israel. I don't want to spend any money on Saudi Arabia. I don't want to spend any money on Ukraine. I don't want to spend any money on Japan or even South Korea. My joke is that, because people will be like, we should defund Ukraine. And they go, what about Israel? Oh, well, Israel's different. So my joke is that because I'm part Korean, I'll be like, no, South Korea's different. No, I don't care about South Korea either. Fun place. Cool place. But I don't know why, and they've not justified to us why, our labor is funding all of this. Petrodollar, American hegemonic power. Dude, secure our borders, get us some good jobs, and let us live on a farm with some chickens. I don't need to live in a country that is the world police. So I believe in this country, its founding, and I think we're wasting money on foreign excursions. Here's the problem. When Nick Fuentes says independence from Israel, I assure you the average person believes that's ridiculous. They have their audience. The average person likes Israel. They do not agree with Nick Fuentes on this one. The other big issue is that a lot of Christians and a lot of evangelicals want us to help Israel because of the Holy Land. Regardless, my attitude is this. My guy, I'm trying to go to people and say, America first. And the first thing that pops in their minds is Nick Fuentes hates Israel. What does that have to do with us securing our borders, bringing jobs back, getting rid of people like Joe Biden, getting accountability for the corruption, cleaning up our streets? No idea. No idea. I believe, whether intentionally or not, it is sabotaging the idea of America first. They take the name, they take the brand, and they taint it. They poison the well. That's why a lot of people accuse him of being a Fed. I don't know about all that. What I can tell you is there's a lot of people who aren't going to say America first because Nick Fuentes certainly is the most famous person pushing that message. Now, I do get it. Donald Trump pushes that message too. But Nick has run this brand. And so what happens is a lot of people are going to begin to associate America first with strict anti-Israel policy. I don't care about Israel. I don't want to fund Israel. It means as much to me as Burma and Saudi Arabia does. I have questions about our funding of all of these places. But I'll wrap it all together right now. We'll wrap this segment up. And I'll say this. I'm fine with disagreeing with the guy. So long as he agrees in free speech, I'm assuming he does, then he gets free speech. The leftists who want to ban people, I'm not going to defend their free speech. If Nick wants to come out and say people should have free speech, I'll say then he should too. And I don't like that TPUSA kicked him out without giving us a reason. Because I'll stress it again. Either they have a valid reason, he's done something wrong, breached a contract or otherwise. Fine, let us know. Because when you don't, it looks arbitrary, and then he holds big rallies, and it empowers him. So if your real issue is over a real grievance, be honest about it. Otherwise, let the dude walk around in your event. But hey, I don't know. I'm not going to text Charlie Kirk and ask him about it. It is what it is. I have my disagreements with Nick. I have my disagreements with Jake Shields. Congratulations. They get to hold their events. But I'm going to also say again, the main reason I want to do this segment, I'm so biased. I'm just so biased. We've had issues with venues doing events, and I'm just like, I don't believe when they were like AFPAC was canceled and they claimed that it was fraud. I was like, no, I don't believe you. But I don't know. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.